I'm Rob Thompson of the Blitz. He's James Pleasure, our producer extraordinaire. We want to welcome everybody onto one of our virtual live streams. It's a man chat. It's brought to you by Twin Peaks. We're going to spend the next hour just kind of hanging out and being dudes. And for dudes to hang out with us, well, we got to make sure we got a little bit of prizing. So we're going to give away $50 man cards to Twin Peaks over the next hour. Easy to do. All we need you to do is go get registered. Sign up at espnsa.com. Get your name registered, and a $50 man card could very well be yours. And then make sure you're listening all hour long as we get it announced. And this is what we do. We're going to hang out and talk about what's going on today. And I love coming on at noon. Normally, you don't get us until 4 o'clock as the news is already broken. But as we sit, it is just now starting to crack. So as we sit and prepare for Veterans Day tomorrow and heading over to Twin Peaks to celebrate our veterans with great specials, let's get into today's headlines as we get going. As we awoke this morning, tough news for Dallas Cowboy fans. Trayvon Diggs, the rookie cornerback, thrust into a situation that he was having to learn on the job. OJT would be the title for that. He broke his foot against the Steelers. It looks like he'll be out at least 6 weeks. The possibility of the entire season certainly does lay out there. And in a very typical fashion, the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, the 8 and 8, the mediocrity, as Diggs leaves. Cheeto Aluzier comes back. Welcome back, Cheeto.
Cheeto!
So they still have a legitimate starting quarterback. Anthony Brown will have a running back, but it doesn't look like it'll be Trayvon Diggs. And for all the abuse that Trayvon has taken, James, and certainly a lot of it's deserved, but understanding the kid's a rookie, and he was thrust into a situation where, whether by talent or not, because he certainly has a lot of raw skill, he just wasn't quite ready for. And he had to take his abuses, his lumps, but there have been interceptions. There's been several near interceptions, some deflections, and the kid was, turning the corner. I wouldn't say he was, had found his niche and was headed toward being an all-pro. I do think that's in his future. But sad news for Trayvon. Done. Out for the next 6 weeks. Nolan once again shorthanded on the defensive side of the ball. Let's see if they can carry it forward, though they do have 2 weeks to prepare.
And you're right. Like, Trayvon was starting to turn that corner, and he was getting it. Like, he was playing better week in, week out. We've seen it consistently over these past 2 weeks, how much better he'd been playing. And with Cheeto coming back, you had this vision of, well, what are they going to be like together? Once one's on one side, one's on the other, you can thrust either Anthony Brown or Jordan Lewis into the slot, and wow, what could this defense be? As we're starting to see it kind of turn the corner as a whole, not just Trayvon, but the entirety of the defense, starting to kind of turn that corner into what I guess Mike Nolan was preaching to us of what this defense could be, and what Mike McCarthy had been preaching to us of what it could be. And we're starting to see flashes. And now, right when you're getting one of those key components back, you're losing another key component. And also the fact that he's a rookie, these reps are invaluable. He's only going to get better as he gets more reps. And now he has to sit down for what could be the season, and it's just a tough loss and what has been a brutal season for the Dallas Cowboys.
If you're just joining us, this is ESPN San Antonio's Man Chat. It's a virtual live stream brought to you by Twin Peaks. We'd like to welcome you into the Man Cave. All those that enter learn the secret handshake, and several of you will be leaving with a $50 man card. Now, how do you win it? It's easy. Just follow the scroll. Register at espnsa.com, and one of these three $50 man cards from Twin Peaks during the stream will be given away, and you could very well win it. We'll have the names at the end of the show as we work our way through. So go get yourself registered. There's plenty of time to get it done. News breaking this morning that Trayvon Diggs, cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, our rookie starter, broke his foot. He's going to be out at least 6 weeks, possibly the season. I think that'll all be determined by the record the Cowboys have when he starts feeling better. If there's a playoff run in order, which would probably run in order with if there's a number 5 pick in order, will certainly play into the what happens to Trayvon Diggs, I believe. And as we have learned from all the docs over at the Sports Institute at TSAOG Orthopedics, that if you choose between a tendon or a ligament tear and a broken bone, most of the times a broken bone is the choice that heals. It's healed. There's not a whole lot of regaining stability. It's just a broken bone in the foot. So the expectation of his return fully healthy is certainly high, and maybe he'll actually get a chance to play. As we talk about the potential for playing and draft picks, Jerry Jones had an opportunity to speak to the press this morning with our friends up there at 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate you joining us, Ralph. Get yourself registered. You might get yourself a $50 man card and head out and hang at Twin Peaks. And I want to remind everybody, tomorrow, Veterans Day, they're celebrating those who have served our country by serving them. On Wednesday, tomorrow, all active and retired military personnel can come and enjoy a free menu item for Veterans Day. Visit your closest Twin Peaks, the 3 locations around San Antonio, 151 and 410. Days of Allah and I-10 in the Park North location. Head over, have your proper identification required, but all veterans and current active duty military get a free menu item at Twin Peaks. Go down and celebrate the right way and enjoy those scenic views as we head out there. All right, so Jerry spoke down with the fan today, as he does every Tuesday afternoon with Sean and RJ. And you know, the idea of what the Cowboys are going to do with this surprisingly high draft pick when you are as bad as you are. When you're at 2-7, suddenly that upper first round picks start looking a little enticing. It's never in the NFL's history has a 2-7 team actually been considering whether should we chase a top 5 pick or the playoffs, because each decision actually has legitimate merits. And this is where they sit. Jerry, on being asked if, in fact, things do completely fall apart and they end up with a very high draft pick and a very good quarterback would be available, Jerry believes he'd just be crazy to draft a quarterback. You buy that, James? It'd be crazy to draft a quarterback when you got Dak Prescott and a cast on crutches?
You know, I've had a lot of Cowboys shouldn't pay Dak. Like, I've
Can't
been
hear you,
on
James.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
Well, that's weird.
Dalvin Cook for MVP. I think the idea of drafting a quarterback, especially when you hear Jerry Jones say it the way that he did, Jerry's an old oil man. Jerry's been up on the oil patch, pointing to a patch of dirt, saying, "No, man, I would never drill there. Why on earth would anybody even try to? There's no oil underneath that dirt. Why would you even want to? In fact, I wouldn't even recommend looking over there. I'm just going to leave that in the backyard, and y'all can go look elsewhere." I think Jerry would be nuts to pass up on a draft pick of the likes of which, whether you grade out Trevor as high as it is, or whether you grade out Fields from Ohio State or whoever else you might like. If he's available, you take him, because that is, in fact, capital. Whether you use it on the field or you use it for other draft picks, it is capital for the future. And I can't imagine a scenario where Jerry would not choose the quarterback. Now, I can't imagine moving the pick and taking the capital before you actually get the investment. But the pick would be available, and he would use that to its full value, whether it be to threat against a quarterback in negotiations or whether it be to legitimately get a guy and use the money that would have been spent elsewhere.
And that's the one thing I don't see with him saying that, is the fact that when you say that Dak's our guy and you don't even consider the fact of taking a quarterback, you lose all negotiation left that you could have. That's just insane that Jerry would do that to himself. But we've seen throughout the years that Jerry has no problem expressing confidence in someone, whether it's Jason Garrett for years or Mike McCarthy now. I mean, I feel like he feels he owes Dak after this was gone on recently and in spite of his injury, and he's trying to make good by it. So while the pick would be useful if you have a chance to get a quarterback, and we've seen quarterbacks on rookie deals are very, very useful when it comes to building a championship type team, but it's also useful in the fact if somebody needs it, they can trade a lot of draft capital to you to help supplement some of the holes that are seen on the roster.
If you're just joining us on Facebook Live and wondering what the heck is going on, this is Path the Blitz and the total production staff of ESPN San Antonio, James Pledger. We are interrupting today's scrolling, hosting a man card event, a live stream man card event brought to you by Twin Peaks. And as we sit and talk sports and all things that men care about, we're giving away $50 man cards to Twin Peaks. Tomorrow being Veterans Day, they're celebrating those that have protected us. and they are going to take care of you. If you're a current or former service member, to honor you, head over to India the Three Twin Peaks here in San Antonio, and you'll get a free menu item. And keeping in mind, as you go to Twin Peaks, TVs all around you, scratch food to be had, barrel-aged bourbons, and all the manic and scenic views you can possibly handle. The Masters is this week. You'll be able to catch a lot of it right here on ESPN San Antonio, only interrupted by Texas Tech football. The Masters will be wall-to-wall Saturday and Sunday here on ESPN San Antonio. And while the dogwoods won't be in bloom, we will get a chance to see Bryson DeChambeau destroy this course, the likes of which we have not seen since 1996. Pledge, you're my resident golf ace. What DeChambeau has done over the last 2 years, he hasn't gotten the publicity that Tiger got for his time. But what he is effectively doing is destroying golf course designs. He is driving them the way Tiger did 25 years ago, just forcing even the Masters to alter their course. The expectation this weekend, as DeChambeau powers through, is he's going to blast into the green. If he can keep them straight, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and while DeChambeau has been making a lot of headway, you also have to remember guys that have played well at the course there in the past, whether it's Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka's a guy that can hit it a ton. These are guys you're going to have to keep an eye on this week out at Augusta, which we still also don't know how this course is going to play this late in the season. We know what it's like in early April. We don't know what it's like in mid-November. So course knowledge and where you miss and all that could be incredibly helpful this year for guys that have a really good bearing of what Augusta National and the layout and where to miss and how the greens roll. That could be very, very useful this week.
As we've grown accustomed to events without fans, as we've had to have piped in sound for basketball and football games, and as certain parts of the country have opened the doors and allowed more and more in, we get a little bit of that background. But I'm not sure what the Masters is going to feel like as they play it without the crowds, without the gallery there, because that was always so important to the communication amongst golfers, keeping in mind that, you only get to see the scoreboard as you're walking. You don't really know where you stand a lot of the times, and golfers will know where guys are on the course and what they're doing by the crowd noise, and they're not going to be able to play off that. There's going to be a unique setting. I think it's actually going to improve a little bit of the feel of the Masters, because I think camera angles are going to be extraordinary this time. I bet we see more than we're accustomed to because they're going to have a lot more access. But walking down 18th on Sunday afternoon is not going to have the same feel. It's going to be a little awkward to watch this silent and regal event. It's going to be, the first hurdle we saw was Korean baseball. How the hell are they even going to play? And then they got, and they figured that out. And then we go, okay, we can play. Now, how the hell are we going to televise this without any fans? And I still think they're juggling that ball. I see some networks are doing it a little bit better than others. I see some announcers handle it better than others in the stands. It still feels awkward sometimes and normal others. Even though at some camera angles where you see empty seats, it feels like I'm watching nothing but, Jacksonville or Cleveland games. I mean, but the absence I think we've grown accustomed to. I think the Masters is going to be that next shock, because we're not going to have the proximity that we had when Tiger and Phil played that stakes match back in the summer, where we were literally in the cart with them and they had hats on and they could, and they had mic'd up and all that. We're not going to have that. And I don't want that, quite frankly, I think, in the Masters. I want the idea of the two guys huddled together in the middle of the fairway discussing club length and everything like that without my interference. It's like not knowing the play call from a coach. I want to see what the plan is in action. I don't necessarily have to know what the idea is ahead of time. So I think we're going to get a lot more of that. But it's going to be an awkward and crazy feel because we don't have the fandom. And because we're going to have some different camera angles, we're going to see the Masters, Augusta, in a whole new way, in a way that I don't think a lot of us have seen. But it's going to be in the fall, so it won't be the blooms, it won't be the greens. It's going to be a different view. What is, the Masters, unlike any other, it's still going to be spectacular, but just really different.
Can we please get cardboard cutouts lining the fairways and around the greens like we do at baseball games and football games where there aren't fans? Can we get like a picture of Rodney Dangerfield in his Caddyshack? Can we get a picture of Bill Murray in his Caddyshack? Like, that would be so great if we had different cutouts surrounding Augusta of different Caddyshack characters.
Yeah, I'm sure the Augusta Board of Governors is all about cardboard cutouts of Bill Murray and Rodney Dangerfield. I think that they would appreciate the humor behind that because they're the ultimate Bushwood. Augusta would be the ultimate kind of place to have that. So I think they'd be down. I'd like them to surround it with like big fat head guys, and it could be like Arnie's Army back in the day. The ball just bounces off them and stays on the green because the cardboard cutouts are going to sacrifice their body for a championship. As we kind of get ready for the Masters, and keep in mind you can catch it right here and go down to Twin Peaks. Certainly, what a great way to spend a sunny afternoon in the middle of November. Sit outside, you got football on one channel and the Masters on the other. That is going to be extraordinary. And what a great place to do it over at Twin Peaks, because when you head over to Twin Peaks, the views are going to be scenically spectacular. Every seat's a man cave. They're going to bring you 29-degree cold beer because, it's that cold by the temperature, by the thermometer up there above the bar. Barrel-aged bourbon coming your direction, too, and specials to be had galore. On the 12th, just a couple of days from now, it's National Happy Hour Day. We have a happy hour to celebrate happy hour.
Yeah.
Growing up in the old days, it was like 2-for-1s. You could do that. I don't think that's legal anymore, but to celebrate National Happy Hour at Twin Peaks, whatever your preference, they have everything you need from tequila cocktails and exclusive bourbons all the way to top shelf spirits and cocktails served over ice and highballs. Local draft beers and handcrafted whiskey cocktails, and round out the adventurous drink menu, a second to none. And don't forget about those 29-degree cold beer drink specials. Happy hour celebrated with a happy hour. That's what Twin Peaks does. Double the pleasure.
Do you want to give away one of those three $50 man cards?
I believe it's probably time. Do you have a name in the bucket that is digital?
I've got a digital bucket name. Let's give our first one to Brian Wilson.
Brian Wilson, congratulations. You are the first winner of a $50 man card from Twin Peaks. We're going to reach out to you and make sure you have it for you. Head over to any one of the 3 Twin Peaks around San Antonio. Eats, drinks, and those scenic views. Oh. And as we talk about the Masters coming up this week, the postponement, we get it in November. And, the excitement level is certainly rising as, it is almost an odd time now when we don't have sports on TV on a weeknight. We've grown very accustomed to that. But as we prepare for the November version of the Masters, COVID is really starting to rear its head. And with every new arrival there in Augusta, new tests are taken and failing or passing, depending on how you want to look at it. Positive tests are being had at the Masters, and that's certainly going to affect the outcome. But as it grows there, so does it grow across the rest of the sporting landscape. Before we get into college and pro football and the advent of the NBA and their decision and college basketball coming, we have to look back for just a bit. The story is not getting a lot of headlines because, quite frankly, the Dodgers don't care. But from that post-game celebration where all were on the field after the World Series clinched from the Dodgers, and Justin Turner's, whether he was told to go out or believed he could, whatever his mingling amongst has turned into 8 or 9 positive tests. That's the background of where we sit. So as we come in on air today, how many Pittsburgh Steelers do we have positive? At least 4 more. Ben Roethlisberger among those, and anybody who watched the Cowboy game knows that defensive line for the Cowboys is probably first on the list from contact tracing because there was a fair amount of contact made between the defensive line and Ben Roethlisberger. So certainly some concern there. But the good news, so far anyway, the science has shown us that to date, not a single case has been transmitted on the field that the physicians know of. So while there's definite concern,
given the Cowboys season, would it not be so 2020 Dallas Cowboys if they were the first to have a field contract trace?
Yeah.
Would it just not fit what's happened to the Cowboys this year?
James, I'm going to put it to you this way. The moment that occurs, the moment that if it does in fact occur, where we can literally trace without much hesitation that there was transmission on the field, that is a worst case scenario to the sports world.
Yeah.
Literal worst case scenario. We can put up with bubbles and we can put up with contact tracing and self-isolation and all of that outside of the playing field. We can look past indiscretion, or we might not, depending. But it is being, at least to this point, it has been left away from the stadium. And if there is in fact proof positive that these guys got it on the field, then I think we have to completely reevaluate where we are in the sports world, especially on the backdrop of what we expect to be the deepest, darkest winter in American history since the last pandemic of 1918, especially with the backdrop of knowing, we're not that far away from the vaccine. I think if that's the case, then we're not there. We have not heard anything, and I don't expect to hear anything. I think if it was possible, it would have already happened, quite frankly. But you never know. And as the Pittsburgh Steelers test positive so closely after a football game where we know full well it was face-to-face, there was breath on breaths, all of that. That's a scary situation. So keep your fingers crossed, and we'll make sure we're keeping it monitored. If you're just dialing through or scrolling by, you're in a Man Cave Talk. It's a Man Card Talk. It's a virtual live stream from Twin Peaks. We do it on a regular basis, just talking to the Twin Peaks types, giving away $50 man cards to Twin Peaks. All you got to do is go to espnsa.com. You'll see the Twin Peaks stuff. Get yourself registered. We've got a couple of other man cards to give away over the next 30 minutes or so. I want to remind everybody that Scenic Views is not just a name, it's a way of life with Twin Peaks. The TV's everywhere, and as you head over to Twin Peaks every weekend, you can expect to get a full spectrum of all our sporting world. Not only do they have the primes, but they also, they get into the UFC, certainly the boxing matches. If you're a soccer fan, you know that you can go get it at Twin Peaks with all those absolute scenic views. And as you head over this week, and you got a lot to take care of and lots of celebrations to have. November the 28th, right there after Thanksgiving, huge fight to be had. Showbox has got you Colbert and Arboleta, Tyson and Jones. It'll be there, just to name a few of the things that are coming this direction. Today is November the 10th. We're 8 days away from the NBA draft. The names that are popping out on a very regular basis to Spurs fans. What was that, James?
And we're now 10 days from free agency. We have dates, Rob.
We do.
10 dates, finally.
The T's were crossed, the I's were dotted last night. The Players Association agreed to a 72-game season to start December the 1st. With free agency, the first games will be December the 22nd. We will have Christmas Day basketball and only 72 games played. So that's huge news. But now it's time for the business at hand. I mean, it was full stop as the bubble burst and everybody went home and celebrated the LeBrons. But now we got to start completely looking at the Spurs roster. As we sit today, DeMar will have the opportunity on December the 1st to opt out of his current deal. Or he can stay in and play through the rest of his contract and then either be traded or leave as he could right now after taking his 27.5. And I'll tell you what, the DeMar conversation is strange because we're hearing two very different sides of a coin that make absolute perfect sense. That DeMar is not happy living in San Antonio. This is an LA guy that goes to college there and spent a lot of time in what many people consider one of the greatest cities in the world, in Toronto. I hold them no ill will. San Antonio ain't Toronto. We don't want to be Toronto for a lot of reasons. But if you're not happy here, we can certainly understand it, because this was he came here not by choice. He was ripped from a team that immediately won a title. I think has been a good soldier. I hold him no ill will if he says, I don't like San Antonio. It's just not my gig. He never said he didn't like the Spurs. He just didn't like the team. So with that in mind, $27.5 million, a relative flat salary cap, but we know that the way the NBA is financially structured, they're taking a little bit of money off the top for this year. For next, money's going to be made. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is still an entirely highly profitable organization. And the idea that max contracts will in some way decrease over the next couple of years, that's ridiculous. So the money is out there to be had. It's just a matter of, we don't know DeMar's altitude. We don't know exactly where he feels he's in his career. I think every player will be the first to tell you that the ring's the thing. But most players realize, the vast majority is, that's never going to happen. This is a short-term opportunity to make a whole lot of money. And DeMar's at the point now where if he wants to go get a ring, he still can and can be a very valuable contributor. But the value of his contribution will not match where he has been. He won't be required to be nearly what he has been because he will arrive on a team that is already prepared. He will be a complementary piece instead of a pillar. Well, that's a tough pill to swallow for many, but that doesn't mean he won't make the money and be a contributor. I just don't know what DeMar feels are his most highest and best aspiration. Is it playing time and just enjoying the league? Is it both and maybe the possibility of a title? Because if it's that, why leave? If it's a title or nothing, I will help you go where you need to go. All I ask is let us know your intentions so we can help you get someplace. Let us all benefit from this because we can provide some leverage that you might not be able to as a franchise instead of a player, where we can clear some space for you to arrive at a team ready to compete. Let us help you. But we don't know his altitude because we're hearing both sides. As a betting man, James, as we sit post-All-Star break, do you see DeMar DeRozan as a San Antonio Spur heading toward the end of the 2021 season?
We've heard both sides, but the one thing I will credit is the first we heard of it, and it went viral, is we had former Spurs beat reporter, now CNBC guy, Jabari Young on the Blitz.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first to say that DeMar was not happy in San Antonio and that he wanted out. He was the very first, and that kind of blew up. And then we've heard it like 3 more times since then, right before the bubble, around the trade deadline, and most recently post-bubble here during free agency. And we've only heard 1 or 2 accounts of which, no, that's false. And so I start to lean towards, it's probably for the best. And when you're in the bubble, think about it. He wasn't in San Antonio in the bubble. He was in Orlando. So it's easy to kind of get caught up in what's going on when you're not stuck in a city that and it's nothing against San Antonio because, like you said, Toronto is worldly known as one of the greater cities. LA, where he grew up, is a hotbed. These are happening places. And I like to equate San Antonio, and it's not a knock, as a big city with a small town feel. And I love that about San Antonio. That's my favorite part about San Antonio. It's not a knock against San Antonio. I love the kind of small town atmosphere that we have.
Yeah, but we don't got 8 zeros in our bank account.
Sure.
It's a different world.
So he wants to kind of be in a hustling, bustling place, I think. And I get that. And I think that he will be moved at some point this season, whether it's before the season or at the trade deadline. I just think at some point the writing's on the wall, and he's probably not re-signing here. So recoup some value for him. So the last bastion of the Kawhi trade isn't, even though it's a bright little flickering light, Keldon Johnson. Like,
true.
That's all you have left if DeMar leaves.
But you want to make steps so you have at least but it's not a zero-sum kind of thing. It's not all or nothing. Certainly the Spurs were bitten by a unique circumstance that will probably not rear its head in the league for quite some time. But there was also some other things that the Spurs did that were of their own doing. The DeMarre Carroll debacle. I mean, there are some situations that the Spurs are in because of their own decisiveness or unpreparedness in the free agent market. So as we look toward what we can see with San Antonio there, I don't know, man. I'm just not sure. If you're wondering what you're doing as you see us scrolling by here on the Facebook, this is ESPN San Antonio's. It's a man chat brought to you by Twin Peaks. We like to jump in every now and again and reward our Facebook listeners with some prizes. We're giving away $50 man cards to Twin Peaks, and it's easy to win. All we need you to do is go to espnsa.com there and jump on the page there. Get yourself registered. You too could win one. Let's give away another one. James, do we have a name?
Sure. How about next name out of the hopper? How about Hector Reyes?
Hector Reyes, if you're listening, we'll reach out to you. Thanks for dialing us in on our Twin Peaks live stream as we look forward to a great week. And I beg your pardon?
If you keep coughing, I'm going to have to put this on.
I'm telling you, got a head cold. It's draining.
Sure.
So, yeah, got the COVIDs. You never know. In fact, well, you never know. But no, I can tell you, I've had a bit of a drainage problem for the last couple of days. But you know what? If you want to clear a place in line, just get yourself a little allergy, a sniffle. You can go wherever you want, and no one will let you get in your way or say anything. We want to thank everybody for joining in. This week, as the Cowboys head into the bye week, if you're just joining us, some tough news. Trayvon Diggs, the cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, broke his foot in the game on Pittsburgh. It will be out the next 4 to 6 weeks. Could be a season ender. The expectation is that will depend on how the Cowboys' record is. But as the Cowboys go, there's always a positive to a negative, and here's the positive. Chido Awuzie is finally coming off IR. So what was, in fact, the Dallas Cowboys' very best cornerback coming into the season will return as the very best because Trayvon Diggs will be gone. So the cornerback tandem that you're accustomed to, he and Anthony Brown, well, that's what you're going to get when you next see the Dallas Cowboys. When you next see the Dallas Cowboys, the expectation is that Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback for them. They're not going to let him lose his gig due to decapitation and extraordinary play by the third or fourth string. I'm not sure how we're keeping count on this, but Garrett Gilbert is, despite his stellar play, in the eyes of most, will probably be relegated back to the bench after Andy Dalton gets better. I understand RIP, RHIP. I was in the military, and I understand that Andy's getting paid X amount of dollars, and X more dollars than you means I get X more plays than you in the NFL hierarchy. I understand that. And I don't have anything against Andy. Heck, I was at the game where he came off the bench after the snap heard around the Metroplex and threw a touchdown pass for a win. So I'm down with Andy, but you know, again, it comes back to where's the Cowboys' headspace? Where are they headed here? I think they can stay on the same road for a while, chasing both the maybe a top 5 pick and a playoff berth. But at some point, you're going to have to make a decision. And if the decision is, hey, we're out, let's go get us a draft pick, then what's the point of playing Andy Dalton? Because he won't be here next year. That guy is going to be gone. And I have a feeling that Garrett Gilbert, if the Cowboys don't hold on to him, will be someplace else again. I think he showed enough film in one game to get him a certain invite to any camp he wants to next year because he proved it.
He's going to be here. Don't worry, Ben DiNucci's going to be here.
Well, there is the Nooch as well. And, you know, I think the jury's out, though. Hey, you're a valiant kid. Thanks for stepping in and being the crash test dummy. I think after we come back from the bye week, if we see marked improvement, we'll see Trayvon Diggs again, and Andy Dalton will maintain as the quarterback because that marked improvement was shown. If we come back and it's the same as before, a couple of turnovers, valiant effort, but it's still a loss, what's the freaking point? The only point left would be, how many of my guys are on incentive-laden contracts? How many of my receivers are looking for X number of catches? Because then it starts getting financial with guys. And those are the kind of little subterfuge things that get forgotten about during the length of the contract with a team. But when it comes time to renegotiate, these guys don't forget that crap. If you're an 80-catch guy and you've got it built into your contract where I get X amount if I get this many catches, and halfway through the season, as I've always said, franchises tank, players don't. You replace a quarterback for me. Well, now you're pulling money out of my pocket. So I think coaches have to balance that very tight line of making sure all your players are reaching incentives that don't affect your cap and at the same time affecting reps and all that. And that's all going to come down to wins and losses. And sadly, it's not just about the Cowboys' wins and losses. We're dealing with 3 other suck teams too that can't figure it out. We got to hope one of those 2 or 2 of those 3 will start to have some kind of half-ass slap fight and take the NFC East and leave the Cowboys out of it. That would be the best scenario, but the Cowboys don't get that lucky, do they, James?
It depends what you determine as luck. Now, I will preface Andy Dalton taking over the starting gig as, yeah, go for it, because what we saw from Andy against both Arizona and Washington was an injury-depleted line. The line has since looked better. It's gotten players back healthy, and it's starting to find some cohesion and play better over the last few weeks. So giving Andy a competent offensive line can elevate his play to more of what you probably saw against the Giants when he came in relief. So that gives you at least a chance to go after a division title. Now,
If you're
things start to slip away, though, I'm not opposed to seeing what you have in Garrett Gilbert and seeing if you want to bring him back next year.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you're wondering what the heck is going on and why you only see half the blitz and all of the production staff of ESPN San Antonio, what we're doing is what we love to do. It's a man chat brought to you by Twin Peaks. We jump on the Facebook feeds and the YouTube channels and broadcast live on a periodic basis, talking all the kind of sports that we all care about, and also looking forward to heading over to Twin Peaks. And a little bit of incentive to join us on the regulars. We give away $50 man cards. Twin Peaks is open, sports are back, and so are they. In fact, tomorrow they're celebrating Veterans Day the right way. Head over to one of the 3 locations here in San Antonio, and if you're a veteran or a currently active duty military personnel, you get a free menu item at Twin Peaks. Please bring your appropriate identification and head on over and celebrate Veterans Day as we celebrate those that have taken care of us as a proud veteran. I thank all of you for your service and give you a little wink for what we did and what we might not have wanted to do, but we did anyway. We want to thank everybody for all that. Head over to Twin Peaks and celebrate Veterans Day, knowing full well the football's in front of you. That's a place where you can watch every game. Every table's a man cave, and all the food coming out of the kitchen, it's scratch and delicious, and all the parties. And, what are we talking about here? Really, it's those scenic views.
Rob, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
As we talk about the Cowboys and what they're going to do the rest of the season, the Houston Texans didn't make any moves at the trade deadline, and there are reports that J.J. Watt could be playing his final season in Houston. He made it known that he's not looking to rebuild. He's looking to win a championship. Is that in Houston, or is it not? How close are they to actually being from rebuild to contender status?
There's such value in JJ as the face of the franchise and really the anchor to what he means to Houston. And it would seem hollow if a chase for the Super Bowl was without JJ Watt, especially knowing that while he might not still be in his prime, he's pretty freaking close and still dominant as long as he's healthy. But I'll tell you, James, I cannot foresee a scenario, even though the Texans are closer than most. I mean, all you had to do is see the game the other day to see Deshaun do what he does. He's worth several wins on his own. I just don't see a future where you can fill the gaps that need to be filled on defense with the salary cap situation that O'Brien left the Texans in. I think it's going to be tough for the general manager and whatever new coach comes into to not only find a place for JJ to play, but keep in mind he has such an important presence that you almost have to mold the defense around him. And if you come in with a slightly different scheme, or if you're looking for a coach to build a defense around a J.J. Watt that won't be here for that long, maybe you're hamstringing your future there. As a Cowboy fan, I saw DeMarcus Ware leave, and I understood why he had to go. I knew that we know you're going to come home. The bust will be in Canton, and you'll have a star on your helmet and all of that, we hope. But at the end of the day, I can't pay you, and I can't get any better as long as I'm paying you. So it's a tough situation, James. I just feel like J.J. Watt will not be a part of a Super Bowl run if one comes, even though I do believe it'll be sooner and later. You're just going to have to excise the salary and get what little value you can in this weird NFL where they don't justify the true skill by money. It's just by his age, and you're just not going to get any more than about a second or third round pick for a gently used, if not almost wore out, J.J. Watt.
I mean, I agree with you, but I look at it and you saw exactly how close Deshaun can make. I mean, this dude is on a career year despite the team only being 2-6. And that's with, an offensive staff that Bill O'Brien has, cobbled together bits and pieces. You can excise yourself from a horrible David Johnson contract after this year. And you wonder, is it the defense? Is it that bad, or is it the scheme? Because reports late yesterday started coming out. Bradley Roby didn't even travel to Jacksonville, their best cover corner, because of, I guess, internal turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
And reports are starting to leak out that it might have been over schematic differences and how he's used and stuff like that. And then Romeo Crennel comes out yesterday and says Bradley Roby's a great corner, and then he walks it back and says, well, he's a good corner. And you start to wonder, what?
It's a ship without a captain, man.
Sure,
Cornell,
but
while
you start
being
to
a
wonder,
wonderful man,
is the defensive scheme the issue more so than the actual players on the field? Because you look at it, and we saw it last year. It's playing great defense against the Saints in that opener. And then with Drew Brees, with a minute left, they go into this prevent shell and allow them to drive down the field and kick a field goal. And you see it all the time. When they get a lead, they go into these shells that allow teams to come back on them. And you start to wonder, is it the defense more so than the players? And can this be rectified simply with the new coaching staff?
There's a little skill there. I wouldn't say they're the most talented defense, and I do think it's a little bit of both. But the concern is, if you're truly a Super Bowl caliber team, you don't just judge yourself against your division. As you see how they're constructed, as you see what the Texans have and what they'll be fighting over the next couple of years, you have to go, well, okay, we got to figure out, can we beat Kansas City on the road in the snow with the team that we have? That's what we got to, that's the measuring stick. It's not everything else. If we're going to win a Super Bowl, and if that's the deal, I can only measure myself against the very best. Can we go into Baltimore and play enough defense and scheme our way to a win? Can we outscore the Kansas City Chiefs? You got to be prepared for both. And as currently put together, I don't think the defense you're playing now, you're going to be playing next year. You're going to have a different coach. And then you start evaluating talent, and the first thing you go is, how much am I spending on JJ? How much am I spending on Merciless? And is it worth
$17.5 million, by the way? That's what you're spending on JJ.
So you start looking at that going, yeah, you're good, but the defense I want to play, you don't quite fit. And I don't think you're going to be around long enough for me to grow the guys into this already now altered defense that once you leave, I'll probably want to do something else. Why would he be a part of a shorter or long-term future when even if he's here while we're trying to get to the Kansas City level or whatever level it is in 2 years? He won't be of any help. And I think it would serve JJ just like it did for DeMarcus Ware, that he could go someplace and be a valuable component to a title chase, and he would go get what he needs to. I think for JJ, I do think the ring's the thing. I don't think he falls into the DeMar DeRozan. I'm not sure. I think he would go get that opportunity. It is a tough situation for the Texans to be in. And I'll tell you what, if I'm McNair, that is the first question I ask to every coach that I hire when we talk defense. What do you do with J.J. Watt? What are your plans? And if you tell me the truth that maybe we need to move him, I think that's one of those pass-fail questions in an interview, that if you tell me, yeah, maybe we'd move him, I'm listening even more because you're not afraid to kind of shake up things in a city that has learned to love only J.J. because the team wasn't good enough to continually love.
I mean, I feel it, but it's especially, it becomes so much harder after the Hopkins trade. Just to justify to the city, like, you already traded away this one guy for peanuts. Now you're trading away literally the heart and soul of the city for peanuts. And it becomes very hard to justify to a fan base in which has grown to love JJ.
Absolutely.
Now, the only way that you could do it is if JJ were to come out and be like, it's for the best of the team. I want to play for a winner. And you can kind of at least parse it to the fan base of, it's a symbiotic thing in terms of, I need to go for y'all to get better. I need to try and also win a championship with what little time I have left. Right. And if it's parsed that way where both sides come out, I think they can save face with it. But it has to be something you have, unlike the DeAndre Hopkins thing, you have to justify that one to the fans.
Kind of the way Ware handled it with the Cowboys. We all knew what was going on, and it hurt. But then again, the Cowboys weren't quite in the same position as the Texans are, but very, very near. As you're scrolling on your devices, go ahead.
I was going to ask, Halloween may be over, but the costume parties aren't at Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah, as conditions prevail, Twin Peaks will always ready for a good party. And on Black Friday, as everybody heads out to score those good deals, head over to Twin Peaks and enjoy what Black Friday really means. Sports on television away from the family as they shop. So head over to Twin Peaks and watch all the football that you can possibly stand on a Friday after Thanksgiving right there at Twin Peaks, knowing full well they'll take care of you all day long. Food coming out of that scratch kitchen, fresh and delicious. The bartender making sure your drinks are poured professionally over with the round bourbon balls, 29-degree cold beers, specials to be had on a regular basis, TVs wherever you turn, man cave luxury at its finest. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. And in San Antonio, we celebrate it the right way. Head over with your favorite veteran, whether current active duty or a veteran, and bring the proper identification. And Twin Peaks would like to offer you a free menu item. It's at all 3 locations here in San Antonio, 151 and 410, De Zavala and I-10, and Loopland. They're the Park North location, my home field. It's right there on De Zavala I-10. I'm a veteran. You'll see me there tomorrow enjoying. I might get me a Huntsman's platter. That's what I like. I like to kick back, have a little meats, charcuterie plate, nice dark cold beer, and watch my favorite sporting events at Twin Peaks. It's a man cave kind of thing. Today on the Blitz, as we get closer and closer, I do want to remind everybody that we're having our Rock the Mic semifinals. I want you to dial in and listen to the Blitz. We'll be live on every possible airwave and platform from 4 to 7. As we have all of our listeners here, we like to celebrate those that hung out with us. You want to give away a man card, Jake?
Yeah, let's give away. This is the third and final man card, I think, right?
Is it? Yes, it is.
So let's give it to Rhonda Salinas.
Rhonda Salinas. All right. Congratulations, Rhonda. We'll be reaching out to you with your $50 man card. It's been a lot of fun, James. If you're just wondering what the heck is going on, you're used to seeing us at 4. This is one of our virtual live streams, a man chat, if you will. It's brought to you by Twin Peaks, highlighting all the great things that are going on at the 3 locations here in San Antonio, and also talking sports as we do here at ESPN SA. Make sure you're following us at ESPNSA.com, on the Twitters at I am Pleasure, at Rob Thompson ESPN, at Jason Minix, my partner in crime as well. We'll be on today at 4 o'clock talking all the sports. Do want to remind everybody that the Masters is getting going this week. You can listen to it live right here on ESPN San Antonio. If there's live programming, it's either going to be high school or college football or the Masters all weekend long. So you'll get it right there, but you can also watch it live down there at Twin Peaks. Sit out on the patio, enjoy those fall breezes. It's going to be in the high 70s. Look at those dogwoods without bloom and sit back and enjoy the Masters. A long-awaited Masters postponed from April to November. It's happening this week. Twin Peaks will have it on the screen and doesn't go anything better. You know what they've got? This is how you celebrate the Masters. They do a great pimento cheese on the Huntsman's platter. Get the pimento cheese, use that great crispy sourdough bread that they have, and celebrate the Masters with a pimento cheese sandwich. Act as if you're standing on the 18th there with the Masters. In the meantime, we want to thank everybody for joining us. James Pledger producing it, as always, the production staff with ESPN San Antonio. Any final thoughts for our ESPN Twin Peaks Man Cave Talk?
Yeah. Texas A&M has a legitimate chance to crack the college football top 4 and make the playoffs.
I think that is absolutely true. A lot plays into it, but I'll tell you what, it's looking like there are 5, and that is it. And whoever stumbles will be the first one out. But I have a definite feeling that only Alabama will be undefeated by the end of the year. And Clemson and Notre Dame, excuse me, will share a loss. North Dakota could go undefeated again, depending on their quarterback. And it looks like they got another one. And at the same time, Florida will win out and lose. It's going to be a decision as to, did A&M provide consistent beatings to the SEC where required to maintain that? And if they do, they'll stay at 5 and somebody will trip. They could get in. Though you wonder if the voters will have a more anti-ACC feel, like we saw Clemson fall the way that they did, or a win over Notre Dame in a championship game will be enough to get 2 ACC teams in.
And they have one more kind of exclamation point game on their schedule with Auburn.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes for Auburn. Taking care of business. Hey, James, thank you.
Aggie syndrome.
Come back to your Facebook page, head back to ESPNSA.com, or do it the real and regular way. We'll be on live again on our radios, 1250 on the AM side, 94.5 FM side. The Blitz will be live at 4. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a fine man chat. Go check out them scenic views at Twin Peaks, and we'll check you again at 4 o'clock. Thanks for joining us today.